Hey everyone, Scorn here. This will be the first episode of my Beginner's Guide series for Escape from Tarkov. We'll be starting on a standard edition account and trying to show you how to learn, adapt, survive, and operate successfully. So right now I'm launching the game for the first time, in which you will have to fight for your life and survive the perils of Tarkov, a Russian city and region in the state of chaos and collapse. And as the intro screen says here, you will die a lot in this game, so be prepared to lose anything that you might find. Just remember, it's not your gear, it's just your turn with it. Now, since Tarkov is a Russian game, we should be picking Russian for the language, if you can speak it that is. But since I speak English, I'm going to select that, and I recommend that you choose the language that's best for you. After the language selection, you're going to choose your name. I'm going to stick with my classic name, and then from there go on to selecting which faction to play as. Tarkov is a solo objective-based game, so even though you may be on the same faction as another player, if you're playing on your PMC and you didn't load into the raid with them, they are not your ally. Now for faction selection, there are only a few differences between the two. Bears are Russian ex-special forces with a specialty 4 and starting equipment set leaning towards the AK platform weapons, such as the AK-74U, RPK, and other Russian-style weapons, whereas the USEC are a security subcontractor group, typically US, from protecting terror groups' interests, and they have a specialty in starting equipment set leaning towards the AR platform style of weapons, such as the M4A1, ADAR, and other NATO weapons. Both factions are completely capable of using all weapons in the game, and the only real difference between the factions for in-game play is that on the map Lighthouse, the enemy AI faction Rogue will engage bears from a further distance and without warning, whereas USECs will sometimes get a warning to leave before being fired on and are typically shot from less distance, making the map easier for USECs to play. For this reason, if this is your first character, your first wipe, I'd suggest playing as an USEC over a bear, but bear will have similar faction benefits when Streets comes out in 2018. Now that you've selected your faction, you're going to select which face your character has and what voice line set he will use. Your face is locked in permanently from the selection here unless you completely reset your account profile on the website, but you're able to switch which voice line set you're using whenever you want in the settings. This selection is entirely personal, but for the USEC team, I do really think Michael has some of the most entertaining voice lines on account of the fact that he screams in pain and fear and curses like a sailor. And so that's the voice line set that I tend to use, but I haven't tested the new ones. Now that we're through our character and faction selection, the first thing that I recommend doing is identifying all of the items from every single vendor. I know this process is going to take around 10 minutes and it's not very fun. If you don't do it outside of raid, every item you find in raid will need to be identified before you can use it or interact with it. This includes the ability to fire any new gun until it has been examined. That's why it's more beneficial to do it outside of raid where you can't be shot versus inside of raid where you can be shot while identifying it. You can examine items by right-clicking on them and then left-clicking on Examine in the context menu, or you can simply use the middle mouse button as the Examine hotkey and do it with half as many clicks. I'd even suggest opening up all of the weapons and identifying all of the parts inside of them as well. And the other advantage to identifying every single item before going into raid is that you can actually get your character to level 2 and be able to accept 2 more quests from the mechanic, which are Gunsmith Part 1 and Introduction, before even going into your first raid. Occasionally those 2 quests will not appear when you hit level 2, and you'll have to either restart your game or run a raid before they'll show up under mechanic. Now we're going to accelerate through the rest of this and I'll see you on the other side. For managing your starting inventory, there are a few different schools of thought. There's no particular best method, but I have a few ideas to each. The first and most popular method is to use your starting gear to springboard off of it to try to earn more gear and progress your character from there. This is known the Chad or streamer method and is the most difficult. The second most popular method is to use some of your better gear for later once you get good at the game, and to use your less desirable gear that you start with to learn how to play with the game. This is known as the conservative or the rat method. The third option, my favorite option, is to sell most of your starting gear so that you get a larger collection of money, because anything that you find or anything that you have is very replaceable in the game, and there are very few big ticket items that are so valuable that you can't bear to lose them. And then once you have a lot of extra money, you'll find a very cheap average costing set so you can perform well with it and perform more raids with the same amount of money. For example, you start with 500k rubles. If your average gear set costs 100k and you die 5 times in a row, you're out of money and you're going to have a hard time progressing from there without your scav, and you're going to be bankrupt. And if your average kit costs 50k, you're going to get 10 raids out of that, so you're going to get twice as many and have twice as many opportunities to make progress on quests, earning money, all on that same bankroll. Once I've sold all my starting gear here, I'll have around 730k, and if I run that 50k kit, I'll have at least 14 raids before I'm completely out of money. From here, we're going to go to our traders and accept our quests. As you can see, we are level 2, but the mechanic doesn't have any quests available for us yet. So we're going to have to do a raid first or restart the game before Introduction and Gunsmith Part 1 appear. We'll accept Debut from Prapper and Shortage from Therapist. Make sure to press the accept button at the top middle of your screen, otherwise you won't be on the quest yet and no progress will be made towards them. In the bottom right corner, you will see your messenger. This is where you can direct message people, add people to your friends list, as well as get information from the vendors about the quests you're on, as well as this is where you will go to collect your quest rewards. Beside the messenger in the bottom corner is your handbook, where you can see a list of all the items you've examined in the game so far. You can dismiss these messages by clicking on the little green counter above the handbook. Now you're ready to do your first raid. Make sure to check your time slot, as anything between 22 and 5 a.m. will be very dark and the sun sets 2 hours prior to that. You can always run an offline raid to practice as well. Even if you die, anything that you have will be returned to you if you're in an offline raid. However, also no progress will be made either, so no items you loot or any quest you complete will actually be finished, and it's purely for practice to learn your way around the map or practice fighting scavs. If you do have the EOD version of the game, you can do co-op offline mode and play with your friend or even scrimmage against them to practice fighting. For your first raid, I'm definitely going to recommend going onto your scav and doing a quick factory raid to make some extra money, as money will always help facilitate your success here in Tarkov. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. This was the first episode of my Beginner's Guide series for Escape from Tarkov. I'm going to have more videos coming out for this series, as well as other videos for Tarkov and other games as well. Check out the other videos on my channel and please like, comment, and subscribe. SkornClaw, over and out.